The moonlight cast eerie shadows across the Montana wilderness as Olivia Lawson frantically pushed through the undergrowth, her breath coming in ragged gasps that formed small clouds in the frigid October air of 1876. The wolves had been following her for nearly an hour, their haunting howls growing closer with each passing minute. Her feet ached from running. Her fine leather boots, practical by Eastern standards but woefully inadequate for the frontier, were torn and sodden from crossing the icy creek that had only temporarily thrown the predators off her scent. "Keep moving," Olivia whispered to herself, clutching the remnants of her once elegant traveling cloak tightly around her shoulders. Just keep moving. She had never imagined that her journey west would come to this, lost in the wilderness at night, separated from the wagon train after the Blackfoot attack that had scattered their party hours earlier. The thought of her fellow travelers brought fresh tears to her eyes. Were they searching for her, or had they presumed her dead alongside the others? The snap of a twig behind her sent her heart racing anew. Olivia whirled around, her honey blonde hair, now fallen from its careful pins, whipping across her face. In the silvery moonlight, she saw them, 5 timber wolves with gleaming eyes fixed upon her, moving with deliberate purpose, their massive paws silent now as they stalked closer. Olivia backed away slowly, her mind racing. She had heard stories of wolves hunting humans, though everyone said it was rare. These wolves, however, looked gaunt, hungry, desperate. The leader, a massive gray beast with a scarred muzzle, lowered its head and growled, a sound that seemed to vibrate through the very earth beneath her feet. Her heel caught on a fallen branch and she stumbled backward, landing hard on the forest floor. This was it, she thought, closing her eyes as the lead wolf tensed to spring. The thunderous crack of a rifle split the night air. Then another shot and another. Olivia's eyes flew open as the wolves scattered, yipping in terror. The leader remained for a moment longer, snarling in defiance before a 4th shot sent it racing after its pack. "They'll never touch you again, miss," came a deep voice from the darkness. A tall figure emerged from the shadows, rifle still raised, scanning the trees where the wolves had disappeared. In the moonlight, Olivia could make out the silhouette of a man wearing a wide-brimmed hat, a duster coat hanging from broad shoulders. "Are you hurt?" he asked, finally lowering his weapon and stepping closer. Olivia tried to speak, but her voice failed her. The terror of the past hours, the wolves, the unexpected rescue, it was too much. She managed to shake her head before the world tilted sideways and darkness claimed her. When consciousness returned, Olivia found herself wrapped in warm blankets beside a crackling fire. The scent of coffee and something cooking made her stomach growl, reminding her that she hadn't eaten since breakfast the previous day. "Ah, you're awake," said the same deep voice she remembered from before. "Thought you might sleep till morning." Olivia pushed herself upright, wincing at her various aches and pains. Across the fire sat her rescuer, now visible in the firelight. He was younger than she had expected, perhaps in his late 20s, with sun-bronzed skin and dark hair that curled slightly where it met his collar. Sharp blue eyes studied her from beneath the brim of his hat, which he still wore despite the late hour. "Thank you," she managed, her voice hoarse. "Those wolves. Desperate times make for desperate predators," he replied, pouring coffee into a tin cup. "Winter's coming early this year. Game's been scarce." He handed her the cup. "Name's Zachary Irwin. Most folks just call me Zach." "Olivia Lawson," she responded, accepting the coffee gratefully. "I was traveling with the Henderson wagon train. We were attacked by Blackfoot raiders near sunset. I ran, and kept running." Zach nodded solemnly. "The Blackfoot don't usually raid this far south anymore. Must have been a rogue band." He stirred something in a small pot hanging over the fire. "You're lucky I was hunting in these parts. Not many folks come through this valley." "Are you a cowboy?" Olivia asked, noting his worn leather chaps and the lariat coiled beside his saddle. A faint smile touched his lips. I work cattle for the Rockingham Ranch about 15 miles east of here. Was tracking a mountain lion that's been picking off calves when I heard the wolves. He dished out a portion of what appeared to be beans and bacon into a plate and handed it to her. Eat. You'll need your strength. Come morning, I'll take you to Cottonwood Springs. It's the nearest town. Someone there might know something about survivors from your wagon train. Olivia accepted the food, suddenly ravenous. Between mouthfuls, she studied her rescuer more carefully. His hands were rough and calloused, but his movements were gentle as he tended the fire. A long scar ran from just below his right eye down to his jawline, standing out pale against his tan skin. Have you been in Montana Territory long? She asked, wanting to fill the silence. 5 years, he replied. Came west after the war. Needed open skies after too long in a Virginia prison camp. His voice carried no self-pity, just stating facts. And you? You don't strike me as someone born to frontier life. Olivia looked down at her muddied, torn traveling dress, once a fashionable garment in Philadelphia society. Is it that obvious? She sighed. I was coming to join my uncle in Helena. He owns mining interests there and offered me a position teaching at the new school. She paused, feeling tears threatening again. My parents died last winter. Influenza. There was nothing left for me in Philadelphia. Zach nodded, understanding in his eyes. The West offers new beginnings to those brave enough to claim them. He added a log to the fire. Get some rest, Miss Lawson. Dawn comes early, and we've got a long ride ahead. Morning arrived with golden light filtering through the pines. Olivia awoke feeling stiff but remarkably refreshed given her ordeal. Zach was already up, saddling a sturdy chestnut gelding and a smaller paint mare. Hope you can ride, he said by way of greeting. Borrowed this mare from a line shack about a mile back. She's gentle enough. I can ride, Olivia assured him, though her experience was limited to leisurely park rides on placid, well-trained horses. Thank you for going to the trouble. No trouble, he replied, adjusting the mare's cinch. Can't leave you out here, and my horse wouldn't take kindly to double weight over mountain trails. After a quick breakfast of coffee and hardtack, they set off. Zach led the way, occasionally glancing back to check on her progress. Olivia found the mare to be indeed gentle, though the western saddle was different from what she was accustomed to. You ride well enough, Zach commented after they'd been traveling for an hour. Most Eastern ladies I've met would be complaining by now. I've done my share of complaining in life, Olivia replied with a small smile. It rarely improves matters. This earned her a genuine smile from Zach, transforming his usually stoic face. A practical philosophy, Miss Lawson. As they rode, Olivia found herself watching her companion. There was an easy confidence in the way he sat his horse, the way he scanned the horizon. He moved like a man completely at home in this wild country. How did you get that scar? She asked suddenly, curiosity overcoming propriety. Zach touched his cheek briefly. Mountain lion. 2 years back. She was protecting her cubs, and I was too slow. He shrugged. Taught me respect. Yet you still hunt them? Only when necessary, he replied. When one starts taking livestock, it's either relocate it or shoot it. Rancher's livelihood depends on his herd. By midday, they crested a ridge, and Olivia caught her first glimpse of Cottonwood, Springs, a small frontier town nestled in the valley below. A dozen or so buildings lined a single dirt street, with scattered homesteads visible in the surrounding grasslands. It's not much, Zach said, noting her gaze. But there's a decent hotel, telegraph office, and the stagecoach comes through twice a week. If there's news of your wagon train, we'll hear it there. As they rode into town, Olivia became acutely aware of her disheveled appearance. Her once fine traveling dress was torn and muddied, her hair a tangled mess despite her attempts to finger-comb it that morning. Curious glances followed them down the main street until Zach reined in before a 2-story clapboard building with Cottonwood Springs Hotel, painted in fading letters across its facade. Mrs. Hoffman runs this place, Zach explained, dismounting and coming around to help Olivia from her saddle. She's a good woman, German, came over after losing her husband in '68. Makes the best apple strudel west of the Mississippi, if you can get on her good side. His hands were strong and sure as they encircled her waist, lifting her down from the mare. For a brief moment, they stood close enough for Olivia to notice the flecks of silver in his blue eyes. He stepped back quickly, clearing his throat. "I'll see to the horses," he said, his voice gruffer than before. "You go on in. Tell Mrs. Hoffman Zach Irwin sent you. I'll be along shortly to check if there's news of your people." The hotel lobby was simple but clean, with polished wooden floors and calico curtains at the windows. A plump woman with steel gray hair pulled into a severe bun looked up from her ledger as Olivia entered. "Good heavens, child!" she exclaimed in a thick German accent. "What has happened to you?" "Mrs. Hoffman?" Olivia asked. "Zachary Irwin sent me. I was with the Henderson wagon train. We were attacked by Blackfoot raiders yesterday, and I became separated from the others. Mr. Irwin saved me from wolves last night." Mrs. Hoffman's expression softened immediately. Sit, you poor thing. I heard about the attack. 2 survivors came through early this morning. A man named Collins and his wife. They are resting upstairs." Relief flooded through Olivia. "They're alive? Do they know about the others?" "Some died in the attack," Mrs. Hoffman said solemnly. "Others scattered. The Collins couple believes more may have survived, but they could not be certain in the chaos." When Zach entered a few minutes later, Olivia immediately shared the news about the Collins couple. A shadow of relief crossed his face. "That's something at least," he said. "Mrs. Hoffman, Miss Lawson needs a room, a hot bath, and some fresh clothes if you can manage it." "Of course," the older woman nodded. "My daughter left some dresses when she married and moved to Bozeman. They might fit." "I have no money," Olivia realized suddenly, her face flushing with embarrassment. "Everything was in the wagon." "Put it on my account," Zach said simply. "I'll wire your uncle in Helena to let him know you're safe. Collins might know more about the other survivors. I'll speak with him." Olivia felt overwhelmed by his kindness. "Mr. Irwin, I don't know how to thank you." "No need," he replied, his eyes meeting hers briefly before looking away. "Just doing what needs doing." An hour later, soaking in a copper tub filled with gloriously hot water, Olivia found herself thinking about the cowboy who had saved her life. There was something about him, a quiet strength, an unassuming competence that she found both intriguing and comforting. In a world suddenly turned chaotic and dangerous, Zachary Irwin represented safety. After her bath, Olivia dressed in one of Mrs. Hoffman's daughter's gowns, a simple blue calico that was a touch too large but clean and whole. She had just finished pinning up her damp hair when a knock came at her door. Zach stood in the hallway, hat in hand, looking uncomfortable in the confined space of the hotel corridor. "Miss Lawson, I spoke with Collins. He says the raiders took most of the wagons and supplies but left the people who surrendered unharmed. He believes most escaped into the hills. Army patrols from Fort Ellis are already searching." "That's wonderful news," Olivia said, relief evident in her voice. "There's more," he continued. "I sent a telegram to your uncle in Helena. Got a reply almost immediately." He handed her a folded paper. "He's sending a carriage for you. Should arrive day after tomorrow." Olivia read the telegram, warmth spreading through her at her uncle's words of concern and relief. "Thank you for this," she said, looking up at Zach. "For everything." He shifted his weight, seeming almost shy now. "Mrs. Hoffman's serving dinner downstairs. Thought you might be hungry." They ate at a small table in the hotel's dining room, roast beef, potatoes, and fresh bread that made Olivia realize just how tired she was of trail rations. Zach was quiet at first, answering her questions with brief responses, but gradually he began to open up. He told her about growing up in Kentucky, his service in the Confederate cavalry during the war, and his decision to head west afterward, seeking a place without memories of conflict. "The ranch owner, McKinney, took a chance on me," he explained. "Didn't care which side I'd fought for, just wanted to know if I could ride and rope. Been there ever since." "Do you ever miss home?" Olivia asked. A shadow crossed his face. "Home's gone. Farm was burned during the war. Parents died of typhoid in '63. Brother was killed at Gettysburg." He looked down at his plate. "Nothing to miss anymore." Impulsively, Olivia reached across the table and touched his hand. "I'm sorry." He looked startled at the contact but didn't pull away. "It was a long time ago." After dinner, they sat on the hotel's front porch, watching as the setting sun painted the distant mountains in shades of gold and purple. A comfortable silence had settled between them. "It's beautiful here," Olivia murmured. "Different from anything I've known, but beautiful." "It grows on you," Zach agreed. "First winter nearly sent me packing. Cold like nothing back east. But come spring." He gestured toward the sweeping landscape. "Something about watching the land come alive again makes you forget the hardships." "Will you stay in Cottonwood Springs until my uncle's carriage arrives?" Olivia asked, trying to keep her tone casual. Zach hesitated. "I should get back to the ranch. McKinney will be wondering where I am." Seeing her expression fall slightly, he added, "But I reckon one more day won't hurt. That mountain lion can wait." The next day brought rain, a steady, soaking downpour that transformed the town's single street into a river of mud. Confined to the hotel, Olivia spent time with the Collins couple, hearing their account of the attack and sharing her own experience. Zach disappeared for several hours in the morning, returning drenched but bearing a small package which he presented to Olivia. "Thought you might want something to pass the time," he said gruffly, water dripping from his hat brim. Inside the brown paper wrapping was a book, a well-worn copy of The Last of the Mohicans. "It's not new," he said apologetically. "Borrowed it from the schoolteacher. Figured you might enjoy it, being from back east and all." Touched by his thoughtfulness, Olivia smiled warmly. "It's perfect. Thank you." That evening, with the rain still drumming on the hotel's tin roof, they sat in the small parlor near the fireplace. Olivia read aloud from the book while Zach listened, occasionally asking questions about the parts she skipped or explaining something about frontier life that paralleled the story. "You read well," he commented during a pause. "You'll make a fine teacher." "If I don't frighten the children with tales of wolf attacks," she replied with a small laugh. "You handled yourself better than most," Zach said seriously. "Kept your head, kept moving. Some folks freeze up, and that's when." He didn't finish the thought. "I was terrified," Olivia admitted, "if you hadn't come along when you did." "But I did," he said simply. "Sometimes life hinges on those moments. Being in the right place at the right time." Their eyes met across the space between them, and something unspoken passed between them, a recognition, perhaps, of how quickly life could change course. The rain continued through the night and into the following morning. By midday, however, the clouds had parted, allowing weak sunshine to begin drying the muddy streets. Olivia stood at her window, watching as riders came and went, wondering which might be the carriage her uncle had promised. A knock at her door revealed Zach, looking unusually formal in a clean shirt, his hair still damp from washing. "Miss Lawson," he began, then paused. "Olivia, I need to head back to the ranch. McKinney's foreman came by. They're moving the herd to winter pasture earlier than planned because of the weather." Disappointment washed over her, though she tried to hide it. "Of course. You've already done so much. I can't thank you enough." "I was thinking," he continued, his eyes fixed somewhere over her shoulder. "Helena's not that far from the Rocking M. I could ride up sometime, see how you're settling in at the school." Olivia felt her heart quicken. "I would like that very much." "It might be a while," he warned. "Once winter sets in, travel gets difficult." "I'll be there," she assured him, "teaching frontier children to read and write. Whenever you find yourself in Helena, Mr. Irwin, Zach, I would be pleased to see you." A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Then I'll make a point of it." He hesitated, then reached into his pocket and withdrew a small carved wooden wolf. "Made this last night. Thought you might want a reminder that not all encounters with wolves end badly." Olivia took the carving, running her fingers over the smooth surface. It was beautifully crafted, the wolf captured mid-stride. "It's wonderful. Thank you." Their farewell was brief, a handshake that lingered perhaps longer than was proper, a tip of his hat, and then he was gone, riding out of Cottonwood Springs toward the east. Her uncle's carriage arrived that afternoon, a comfortable conveyance driven by a taciturn man named Peterson, who helped load her few belongings and the borrowed dress from Mrs. Hoffman, which the kind woman had insisted she keep. The journey to Helena took 2 days, during which Olivia found her thoughts repeatedly returning to the blue-eyed cowboy who had saved her life. There was something about him, a depth of character, a quiet strength that had touched her in a way no Philadelphia gentleman ever had. Helena proved to be larger and more established than Cottonwood Springs, with proper streets, brick buildings, and even a theater. Her uncle, Edward Lawson, was a robust man in his 50s who welcomed her with genuine warmth to his substantial home on the town's best street. "My dear girl," he said, embracing her, "when I received that telegram about the attack, I feared the worst. To think you survived wolves. Providence was certainly watching over you and that cowboy as well." Life quickly settled into a routine. The school was a sturdy one-room building with 26 pupils ranging from 6 to 16 years of age. Olivia found teaching challenging but rewarding, and the children, though sometimes rough around the edges, were eager to learn. October gave way to November, and the first snows came to Helena. Olivia wrote letters to Mrs. Hoffman, sending money to cover her debt and inquiring if there had been any further news of the wagon train survivors. She received a kind reply confirming that most had been found alive, though 4 had perished in the initial attack. Mrs. Hoffman's letter included a postscript. "Your cowboy inquired after you when he came to town last week. I told him you had reached Helena safely. He seemed pleased to hear it." Olivia read those lines over and over, a warm glow spreading through her at the thought that Zach had asked about her. She found herself watching the road from Helena to the east, wondering if he might appear one day. December arrived with bitter cold and deep snow. Christmas approached, and Helena embraced the holiday spirit with decorated shop windows and a community tree in the town square. Olivia threw herself into preparations for the school's Christmas pageant, helping the children learn carols and readings. It was 3 days before Christmas when she looked up from helping a young student with his reading to find a familiar figure standing in the schoolhouse doorway, hat in hand, snow dusting the shoulders of his heavy coat. "Mr. Irwin!" she exclaimed, rising so quickly she nearly knocked over her chair. "Miss Lawson," he replied, a smile warming his features. "Hope I'm not interrupting your lesson." The children, sensing something interesting, watched with undisguised curiosity as their normally composed teacher flushed pink. "Class, this is Mr. Irwin," Olivia said, trying to regain her composure. He's the gentleman who saved me from the wolves I told you about. This introduction was met with wide eyes and excited whispers. One bold boy raised his hand. Did you really shoot at the wolves, mister? Zach nodded solemnly. I did, but only to scare them away. This answer seemed to satisfy the children, and Olivia used the moment to dismiss class early for the day, much to their delight. As the last child bundled up and hurried out into the snow, Olivia found herself suddenly alone with Zach, her heart racing like it had during that terrible night in the wilderness. You came, she said simply. Promised I would, he replied, taking a step closer. McKinney gave some of us a few days off for Christmas. Thought I'd see how you were faring in the big city. Helena is hardly a big city, Olivia laughed. But I'm doing well. The school, the children, it's everything I hoped for. She paused. How long can you stay? Need to head back day after Christmas, he said. But I have a room at the Grand Hotel for now. Olivia gathered her courage. My uncle is hosting a Christmas Eve dinner tomorrow night. Would you consider attending? I've told him all about you, and he's eager to meet the man who saved his niece. Something flickered in Zach's eyes, uncertainty. Perhaps. Don't know that I'd fit in with fancy folk. It's not fancy, she assured him. Just my uncle, his housekeeper, and a few friends. Please say you'll come. He studied her face for a long moment before nodding. All right. For you, I'll come. The walk from the schoolhouse to her uncle's home was filled with conversation as Zach told her about life on the ranch since they'd parted the early snowstorms, the challenging cattle drive, his eventual success in relocating the troublesome mountain lion instead of shooting it. Thought about what you said, he explained. About respect. Found her den, realized she had cubs to feed. Helped the rancher 2 valleys over set up better protection for his livestock. And she's stayed away from ours since. I'm glad, Olivia said, touched that her words had made such an impression. At her uncle's gate, Zach hesitated. Should I walk you to the door? Olivia smiled. Perhaps tomorrow evening would be better for introductions. Dinner is at 7. He nodded, his eyes lingering on her face. I've thought about you, he said suddenly. Often. The admission sent warmth coursing through her despite the December chill. I've thought about you too, she confessed. A smile lit his features, transforming his usually serious expression. He reached out hesitantly, his gloved hand briefly touching her cheek. Until tomorrow, then. That night, Olivia could barely sleep, her mind filled with thoughts of Zach and the dinner to come. She had told her uncle the full story of her rescue weeks ago, and he had expressed a genuine desire to thank the man who had saved his only niece. But now that Zach was actually in Helena, Olivia found herself nervous about the 2 most important men in her life meeting. The next day crawled by at an agonizing pace. She helped the housekeeper, Mrs. Parker, prepare for the dinner, taking special care with the table settings and making sure Zach would be seated beside her. When the doorbell rang at precisely 7 o'clock, Olivia nearly jumped out of her skin. She smoothed her green silk dress, one of the few fine garments she had brought from Philadelphia, and took a deep breath before going to greet their guest. Zach stood on the porch, looking both handsome and uncomfortable in a new shirt and string tie, his usually windswept hair neatly combed. He held a small package wrapped in brown paper and string. You look beautiful, he said quietly as she opened the door. Thank you, she replied, feeling a blush warm her cheeks. You look very handsome yourself. Her uncle appeared in the hallway behind her. You must be Irwin, Edward Lawson. Come in, come in. Any man who saves my niece from wolves is welcome in this house. Dinner was a pleasant affair. Uncle Edward had indeed kept the gathering small, just himself, Mrs. Parker, an elderly judge who lived next door, and the local doctor and his wife. Conversation flowed easily, with much of it centered on Zach's life as a cowboy and the growing cattle industry in Montana Territory. The railroad coming through changed everything, Zach explained in response to the judge's question. Used to be we drove herds all the way to Cheyenne. Now we can ship from Helena or Bozeman. Progress marches on, the doctor commented. Soon we'll have electric lights and telephones, just like back east. Not too soon, I hope, Zach replied with a small smile. Some of us came west to get away from all that progress. After dinner, while the others retired to the parlor for coffee, Olivia led Zach to the small conservatory at the back of the house where her uncle grew exotic plants year-round thanks to a complicated heating system. Your uncle's been kind, Zach said, looking around at the greenery. Wasn't sure what to expect. He likes you, Olivia assured him. He values straightforward people. They stood among the ferns and flowering plants, a small oasis of summer in the midst of winter. Zach seemed to be gathering his courage for something. Almost forgot, he said finally, handing her the package he had brought. Merry Christmas. Olivia carefully unwrapped it to find a small leather-bound journal with her initials embossed on the cover. It's beautiful, she breathed. Thought you might want to write down your adventures, he explained. For your students, or maybe someday for your own children. The thoughtfulness of the gift touched her deeply. Thank you. I have something for you as well. She retrieved a package from beside a potted palm. It's not much, but... Inside was a hand-knitted blue scarf that matched his eyes. I made it myself, she said, suddenly shy. Mrs. Parker helped me learn how. Zach ran his fingers over the soft wool. No one's made me anything since my mother died, he said, his voice rough with emotion. Thank you. Their eyes met, and Olivia felt something shift between them, the careful distance they had maintained giving way to something deeper, more meaningful. Olivia, he began, then paused, searching for words. I'm not a man of wealth or education. I have a small cabin on McKinney's land and savings enough to buy my own spread someday, but it's a hard life. Not what you're used to. Her heart pounded as she realized where his words were leading. Zach, I came west looking for a new beginning. I found it in Helena, in my teaching. She took a deep breath. But I found something else that night in the wilderness. Something I wasn't looking for but now can't imagine living without. His eyes widened slightly. What are you saying? I'm saying that I've fallen in love with you, Olivia said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. With your kindness, your courage, your quiet strength. Whether you live in a mansion or a cabin makes no difference to me. For a moment, Zach seemed frozen, his expression unreadable. Then, slowly he reached out and took her hand in his. From the moment I saw you in those woods, he said softly, something changed in me. Thought it was just concern at first, but these months apart. He squeezed her hand gently. I love you, Olivia Lawson. Never thought I'd say those words to anyone, but there they are. Joy bubbled up inside her like a spring. And I love you, Zachary Irwin. He pulled her gently closer, one hand coming up to touch her cheek. May I kiss you? He whispered. Her answer was to rise on tiptoe and press her lips to his. The kiss was gentle at first, then deepened as his arms encircled her waist, drawing her against him. When they finally parted, both breathless, Zach rested his forehead against hers. I should speak to your uncle, he murmured. About what, exactly? Olivia asked, her eyes twinkling. About courting his niece properly, Zach replied. And maybe, if she'll have me, making her my wife come spring. Olivia's heart soared. I think she'll have you, she whispered. In fact, I'm certain of it. Spring arrived in Montana Territory with its usual drama snowmelt flooding the valleys, wildflowers erupting across the plains, and life renewing itself after the long winter. In Helena, The town bustled with activity as winter isolation gave way to the promise of summer trade. At the small white church on Pine Street, flowers adorned every surface as Olivia Lawson, radiant in a gown of ivory silk, walked down the aisle on her uncle's arm toward the man waiting at the altar, Zachary Irwin, still sun-bronzed from his work on the ranch but today dressed in a new suit, his usually windswept hair tamed for the occasion. Their courtship had spanned the winter months, with Zach riding to Helena whenever weather permitted. By February, he had presented her with a simple gold band and a formal proposal, which she had accepted without hesitation. Uncle Edward had given his blessing readily, having grown fond of the straightforward cowboy during his visits. Now, as they exchanged vows before the assembled townspeople, students, and ranch hands, Olivia felt a sense of perfect rightness. This was her place, not Philadelphia with its rigid society, but the wild, beautiful Montana territory, with this man who had saved her from wolves and stolen her heart in the process. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," the minister declared. "You may kiss your bride." As Zach's lips met hers, sealing their union, Olivia knew that whatever challenges life might bring, they would face them together as wild and free as the land they called home, and as enduring as the love that had blossomed from a chance encounter in the wilderness. And later, as they drove away from the church in a wagon decorated with ribbons and flowers, heading toward the small ranch Zach had purchased with his savings, a modest start to their life together, Olivia leaned against her husband's shoulder, the carved wooden wolf he had given her months ago tucked safely in her pocket. "They'll never touch you again," Zach murmured, repeating the words he had spoken on the night they met. But now they carried a different meaning, a promise of protection not just from physical dangers, but from loneliness, from uncertainty, from the wolves that haunted the soul. "I know," Olivia replied, gazing up at the man who had become her world, "because I have you."